Welcome to Channel's Business Globe with me, Juliana Olayinka, reporting from the Nigerian capital, Abuja, this week for a special edition focusing on the heart of government and policy, with a focus on food security, agribusiness, finance and subnational development. But first, earlier in the week, I sat down with Ayo Shotirin, the new Managing Director of the Bank of Agriculture at the bank's headquarters here in Abuja. He spoke candidly about his mandate, the road ahead for Nigeria's food ecosystem, and what's changing at the institution tasked with financing our farms. I want to talk about your new role. I suppose you would know that the 100 days has become a huge symbol for global leaders in terms of setting out their agenda and determining what their tenure is going to be like. Can you talk to us about what you hope your 100 days will symbolize for you and for the bank?
Thank you very much. My name is Ayo Shotirin, the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of Agriculture. I'm excited to, be newly appointed into this role, and for the first 100 days, there are a few, things that we need to do, always tearing down the foundation and rebuilding it and make it strong, right? So I think first thing I need to do is to create a transformation office, get very competent, credible, Nigerians who can work with us to transform the entire, fabric of the organization, proper change management systems in place, having, proper workforce reassessments, doing a human capital reassessment, and making sure we have the right people to drive the vision of the bank, because we're at a very interesting point in our country where food security is a big problem, and food inflation is rocket high. So for us, our plan is to find a way to dip in financing in the agriculture sector. We're set up as a retail DFI. It means we can play an interesting role between a retail bank and a development finance institution. So whilst we, take in money, we can also, give out money to our farmers, right? Also create products that will be in their wallet. If they want to buy inputs, so fertilizer, mechanization, seeds, and all those sort of things, they can buy through their wallet, and everything's going to be digitized. So digitization of the entire bank is our priority. Just so you know, Bank of Agriculture is an amalgamation of different banks, Cooperative Bank of Nigeria, People's Bank, and all that since 1952. And as it stands currently, we are in 110 locations in Nigeria. It means we can reach any and every Nigerian. So first thing first, we have to get a repository of farmer data information. We've got to get that correct. We're going to be the singular entity that has, proper farmer data. We're going to go to the internet, we're going to go to the communities to capture farmer data, put their NIN number, which is your unique identification number for them, the BVN, the thumbprint, facial recognition, geospatial technology to know where the farms are and where they live, right? So when we have all this information, we can tell you categorically where the 70 million farmers are in Nigeria, according to the World Bank and FAO data, right? Now, when we know them, it's now easy to lay on top different services, right? We want to give microloans. We want to provide, credit risk guarantee. We want to provide crop insurance. We want to provide, even mechanization services or financing services to them. All the sort of things we can dispense through this unique identification number or unique card for them. So for me, those things are quite important. Now, thinking about how you reach more people with all these branches, we will be the single entity that will drive financial inclusion in Nigeria, right? Obviously in partnership with, commercial banks and other agencies like NIPOS who are doing it. But the plan is to bank the unbanked in Nigeria, right? How can we become, a very strong retail bank, even though we're also a DFI, where we can provide services to every Nigerian who is in the agriculture space. I don't know if you know, even civil servants are allowed to actually do farming or agriculture. That's the only thing they're allowed to do. So you're talking over 20 million civil servants in Nigeria, both at the national level and subnationals, 37 subnationals, 36 state plus the FCT. So for us, we want to make sure that everyone goes into agriculture or goes into farming, and we will be the backbone of the sector, providing financing for this. Last thing I was going to mention to you is we want to work with a lot of, I would say, partners to create what I call a mini AMCON, where we bring in all our non-performing loans, which is skyrocket high for now, and we sort of like reform everything, right? We house them properly, and we make sure that we recover what can be recoverable. And when we get capital, we disperse capital in a different way. So for me, those are sort of things I want to do in the first, 100 days.
It seems heavy lifting.
Yes, it is.
So I was saying that you were trending
Right.
when this appointment was announced. There's a lot of buzz around you. There's a lot of excitement around
Right.
you. A lot of the items you've just listed, a lot of people, including His Excellency, Mr. President,
Yes.
are expecting you to deliver. Are you a farmer, a banker? Where has all this buzz come from? And why do people consider you to be the man that can lift this bank to its glory that it so desperately needs?
Right. First thing first, let me say a huge thank you to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for, counting me worthy of this sort of position. I'm not the best in country. I don't think I'm the best. Yes, there was a lot of buzz about it.
You were trending,
Yes.
even in the blogs.
Correct. Yes. So it would interest you to know that I have a very interesting background, right? So I've got this nexus between finance and agriculture, which I believe is what the president saw, and Nigerians, and this sort of got them to appoint me as a CEO, managing director of the bank. Just a bit of background. So I
can hear a bit of England, a bit of England in there.
Well, I'm a Nigerian, through and through.
Okay.
However, spend,
The diaspora is very important.
Correct. Yeah, but I spent after my life in the UK, studying with university. I thought I was going to save the world. I wanted to be an environmentalist, so I went to study environmental management at Oxford University. When I left there, I did a different postgraduate at Warwick University because I thought I was actually going to be an industrialist. I wanted to do manufacturing, so I did engineering, business, manufacturing at Warwick Manufacturing Group at Warwick University. So whilst I did that, I think I got a job with. Before then, I got a job with the government at the Environment Agency in the UK under DEFRA. Did that for a little while.
British government.
Correct, British government. After a while, I got a job as a banker because I did a bit of banking in Royal Bank of Scotland. So I was working in Jersey. I worked in Guernsey, Gibraltar, offshore. Isle of Man, correct, offshore, doing private wealth. I also did an MBA in finance at Oxford University again, Side Business School. And I got another job at Deutsche Bank doing the same thing. However, those were very, formative years of my life, with fantastic experience. Thank you. And at some point, I got a clarion call to take up and serve. So 15 years ago, I got called from the UK. I was appointed special advisor to the FCT Minister of State. And I did that for a little while, gave me my baptism of fire in politics.
Yeah.
And I somewhat got to understand, how it is to work in government. However, I was an advisor in one or two sectors, right? And I just thought I was pregnant with so many things. I had a lot to give, and it wasn't really enough to satisfy my appetite to make a change. So I started a company called SEO Advisory, where I provide services for government, both national and subnational government, working with government, not working in government now. So myself, some of my colleagues or staff, ex-McKinsey, ex-Accenture and all that, we started this consulting gig, and we're doing a lot with government.
Where did agriculture come into?
Sorry?
Where did agriculture come into?
Correct. So we're doing a lot of development advisory, which is encompassing. So it's got to do with agriculture, education today, infrastructure tomorrow and all that. So somehow I got, I fell in love with agriculture and I started my own farms. Because I believe that's the highest employer of labor, right? In Nigeria, as I said, we have over 70 million farmers. Also, every household has, minimum 50% of the household in agriculture. So I thought, first of all, job creation for me for this, government agencies that I work with is to create, projects within agriculture that can employ a lot of people. So whilst doing it, I thought I might as well, throw my hat in the race, put a skin in the game. So I started my own farms and it became very addictive. I kept acquiring more farms. I think at some point I had 20,000 hectares of oil palm plantation that I was developing. And afterwards, I just started acquiring more urban plantations owned by government, all those sort of things. And all in, I think our land bank should be about 50,000 hectares, before anything else. So we do oil palm in mass. We also farm cocoa, cassava. We also do a lot of partnerships with state governments where we co-fund, I would say, primary production, and we produce and we just, we split the money.
So that enabled you to see firsthand some of the issues.
Correct. Correct. Based on the fact you have a lot of communities around you that we employ, I think last count we probably employ about 2,300 people on some of our farms. You get to see firsthand, the pain points for the farmers. You get to see firsthand what the farmers need. So for me, it was very crucial to find a way to support past just being a farmer in that particular sector. So I just started to, write position papers. I'd speak to, media houses on what I think can be done to support farmers.
You became an expert.
Correct. For me, I am very focused, which is a fortunate thing for me. However, I was very lucky that I inherited a bank such as this. The algorithm was fantastic. It's done a lot of work that I can sort of ride on. But most importantly, my plans for the sector actually scares me sometimes. It gives me anxiety. Why? Because I've got, very big aspirations to disrupt, the agriculture sector. Looking at examples such as Malaysia, Indonesia, who are farming 4 million hectares of just oil palm, a sector or value chain that I'm very, familiar with. I see how we can leapfrog from where we are, where we have less than 150,000 hectares, all in Nigeria, to farming over 3 million hectares in the space of 5 years. So basically, the president can literally, set up a committee with 10 governors of the 10 littoral states in Nigeria that oil palm grows the most. And rule of thumb, to invest in an hectare of oil palm is $6,000. So to do 100,000 hectares per state times 10 states is a million hectares. Today, you're talking $6 billion or $60 billion of investment.